Sure what you meant, Kate. Oh, just one. Carrie says he's got to stand back here. So why don't we just sit up above there? So where are the kids? No. Oh, okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maddie Kolpa, and I'm a member of the board here at TVUUC. On behalf of the board and the program council, it is my honor to welcome you here this morning. Whether you are here in the building or watching online, you are welcome here. Let's find the camera. We can all wish everybody watching online a good morning. Whoever you are, wherever you are from, and wherever you are on your journey, you are welcome here. All of who you are is sacred, and all of who you are is welcome. If you would like more information on our church, please fill out the visitor card in the pocket in front of you, or visit our website, tvuuc.org, and select Stay in Touch. If you are visiting us with small children, we invite you to sit up front right up here where it's easier for your little ones to see what's going on. Please don't feel that you must keep them still. All are welcome here, wiggles and giggles and all. If you do need to step out with your child for a moment, the E.E. Cummings room is a glass enclosed room at the back of the sanctuary where you can still hear and see the service. It is there for your family's comfort, but please do not feel obligated to use it. We understand that silence is never completely silent. If you are interested in classes for your children here at TVUUC, please visit our religious exploration table in the art gallery of the lobby, where I will be staffing the table after the service to answer your questions. You can also find more information on our website. We have a few announcements this morning. Please join us after the service for our first Sunday potluck. This month, the potluck is sponsored by UU The Vote. which will have an informational table in the fellowship hall. As a quick reminder from that group, if you have already taken some postcards, it is time to mail them. Lynn Hickson would like to thank all of the volunteers that made TVUUC's participation in Knox Pride possible. Volunteers that helped plan and prepare for Pride, helped staff the booth, helped set up and break down the booth, donated promotional items to give away, marched or drove in the parade. Your volunteer spirit is greatly appreciated. Next up, Lillian Mashburn has a quick announcement about the auction.
Well, this is an exciting time for the church, preparing for our church auction. Last year, we raised $24,000, which is the largest amount we've ever raised with the auction. And we didn't sell items. We had dinners, we had parties, we had receptions, we had baked goods, we had all kinds of items. And we hope that you all will put your thinking caps on like you did last year and try to come up with something to put in the auction. John and I will be out at the table in the in the receiving hall, and come by. We'll talk to you. We'll make suggestions. We'll show you how to input stuff into the auction. This can be another major fundraiser for the church. So if you don't have a place that you want to have a party, you can also arrange to have them here. I've opened my home to groups that want to get together, and just be creative.
And last announcement, as chair of the Endowment Fund Committee, Rich Davis has a special announcement.
Good morning. The Endowment Fund. For many of you, this may be old hat, but for those of you who are new to TVUC, or perhaps like me, spent years not really understanding the importance of the Endowment Fund, I want to tell you that the fund has been crucial to the health of this church. The Endowment Fund provides money in an emergency and for capital improvements not covered by operating expenses. It was used to purchase the equipment necessary to meet remotely in the face of the COVID pandemic. To my mind, our church community was sorely in need of each other during the heart of the pandemic, and the Endowment Fund made that possible, at least remotely. I'm not saying I expect another pandemic to hit anytime soon, but the fund has been very useful in other ways. The sound system improvements, the new patio, outdoor furniture, and improvements to the RE wing, important to encouraging families with young children to attend, are examples of projects which could not have been accomplished through the general budget. I know you've been asked to support the general budget through your annual pledge. Over the next few Sundays, you'll hear from several members of the congregation how the Endowment Fund, separate from the annual budget, has positively affected them. As they speak, I would ask that you reflect on their words and give to the Endowment Fund as well. You can give in a number of ways: a single gift, periodic giving, or adding the fund into your estate planning. Let's continue to build this fund together. If you have any questions, please contact me or any other committee member. Thank you.
These announcements and others can be found towards the back of your order of service. Today is a Generosity Sunday, and to tell you more about what this means and how to give, here is Mark Mahundra.
Good morning. I'm Mark Mahundra. I work here at the church handling membership and outreach. If you have any questions about Tennessee Valley or Unitarian Universalists, greater denomination, please feel free to track me down after the service or next week before the service. I'll be glad to talk with you. So the ways to give to TVUUC. You can do a cash or check with the Sunday offering. There's a kiosk in the lobby of the church where you can use credit card. If you have any problems with that, please seek out someone in the office. You can give by text by sending TVUUC, and that's sending TVUUC, and the amount to 73256, and that's 73256. Thanks, and Chris will tell you a little bit more about the designated offering.
Last week we did a special collection for Seeds and Bridges, who's providing food and other supplies for people affected by the hurricane. Last Sunday we raised $2,000. And as the operation moves into a new phase, less emphasis on direct supplies, but people working on repairing all the damage, clearing up all the destruction, Seeds and Bridges is going to continue to be involved in giving hot food to all the volunteers who are helping with that very hard work of reclamation. So this week we're also giving to Seeds and Bridges. I invite you to give generously.
After the service, please join us for lunch and conversation in the fellowship hall. If you are visiting or would otherwise like a tour of the building or have questions about our church, look for me there or at the RE welcome table in the lobby, and I'll be glad to chat and show you around. Before we begin the service, I would like to share these words of welcome by Jules Haramia. This morning, we gather together to worship as a community of all ages. Let us take a moment to look around at those of us sharing this sacred space. Let us recognize the hearts of our whole community, from our elders to our youngest and all the ages in between. Let us embody the beauty of this whole church community, even when there are a few more wiggles, giggles, and chatter. Let us remind ourselves to listen carefully, calming our bodies and our minds. Let us begin by breathing peace and joy into this sacred space. And know that you are surrounded by the love of this community, where all are welcome. And now, if you have not already done so, please silence any electronic devices as we enter worship together.
So for our opening words, I want to do a little something different and invite you to turn in the back of your gray hymnal to unison reading 458, which is a good tradition for this time of year, written by Walter Royal Jones, Jr. We can say those words together. Mindful of truth ever exceeding our knowledge, and community ever exceeding our practice, reverently we covenant together, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity and the heritage of the Spirit and the unending quest for wisdom and love. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to turn in your gray hymnal to hymn 399, Vine and Fig Tree.
Okay, could I have that E minor chord? So let's all sing it together first and then as a round, and I'll try to direct it. So here we go. And everyone neath a vine and fig tree shall live in peace and honor. Now we repeat this. And everyone neath a vine and fig tree shall live in peace and honor. Now we all go on. And into plowshares turn their swords. Nations shall learn war no. Repeat this. And into plowshares turn their swords. Nations shall learn war no. Now wait for a minute. Now repeat that, join us. And everyone neath a vine and fig tree shall live in peace. Repeat that, but let's go on. And every da 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 da, they'll learn war no more. And into plowshares turn their swords, nations shall learn war no more. A little faster from the top, everybody. And everyone neath a vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. Everybody. And everyone neath a vine and fig tree shall live in peace and go on. And into plowshares turn our swords, nations shall learn war no more. And into plowshares turn our swords, nations shall learn war no more.
In the Middle East, they like to tell stories about Nazarene. You hear lots of stories about Nazarene, so many that you wonder if all of them can be true. So when Nazarene was a young man, he decided he wanted to be a gardener because he loved beautiful flowers. Loved beautiful flowers. Would you like this picture? Anybody would like it? So Nazarene decided he would become a gardener and build a beautiful garden, and he planted seeds, and he worked hard on his garden, but when the flowers came up, he noticed there were dandelions sprinkled throughout his garden. So he got out his gardening books and he began to look for a solution. And he would try one solution, but it didn't work. And he tried another solution, but it didn't work. He tried another solution, and so finally he tried so many solutions, he got very discouraged. And he decided to go to the king to see if the king could solve his problem. And the king called in the royal gardener. And the royal gardener asked Nazarene what was the problem. And he says, I'm trying to get rid of these dandelions. And the royal gardener said, have you tried this? And Nazarene would said, I tried that, but it didn't work. And so the royal gardener came out with another idea. And Nazarene said, I tried that, but it didn't work. And so the royal gardener came up with many, many, many ideas, but Nazarene said, I tried that, but it didn't work. And so the royal gardener thought for a minute, and then he said, you know what? If you've tried all these ideas on how to get rid of those dandelions, there is only one solution open to you. What is that? Said Nazarene. I suggest you learn to love them. And that's what Nazarene did, and more often than not, that's what we must do as well. That's our story for today. Now we will sing our kids to their classes.
Good morning. My name is Mebby Jackson, and I am a member of the spiritual care team. We are a group of heart-centered, deep listeners that help with the caring needs of the congregation. We can be reached by phone or text. The number is listed in your order of service. It's also published on the website. We have many ways that we assist the congregation. We have listening booths on the second Sunday of every month, and we can facilitate meals and rides for people in need. Our greatest asset is you. So if you know of any caring needs in the congregation, please let us know. Our hearts go out to the Kistner family this morning as Heather asks that we send love and light to her family as her mother, Cindy Gardner, passed away this morning. The Gardners were members of TVUUC way back when Heather was attending youth groups at the church down the road. And Heather says, Sunday morning, what an amazing time for my mother to pass. She has finally received the peace she has asked for. So we send our love to Heather and her family. We are also sending love to Elnora Williams' family as her grandchildren, Nevin and Naya, and her daughter-in-law, Whitney, are caring for her mother, Whitney's mother, Krista Carr, in the final moments of her life. So we send our heartfelt blessings to them all. Chaz Barber has had minimal lumbar surgery on his spine this week, and he is recovering nicely, and he would appreciate any prayers, best wishes, or cards. And as we learn more about the devastation of our region and our neighbors, our hearts can get heavy. Action can often help us move through our grief, and TVUUC has helped in many ways. We raised $2,000 for Seeds and Bridges last Sunday. Thank you very much. And we helped facilitate around 80 deliveries through the Knoxville Flood Mutual Aid Collective, where supplies to stricken areas in East Tennessee and North Carolina were facilitated. Thank you all to those who donated time, efforts, and talent and treasures to this important work. And a final joy that we celebrated Pride this weekend, and we give our great thanks to Lynn Hickson in helping to organize the parade and the booth at the festival yesterday. Thank you so much. It is with these joys and concerns, both spoken and unspoken, that we send out our light and our love. So please join us in singing our song to spread this energy. Thank you.
So our reading from this morning comes from a book published by Unitarian Universalist Publishing House, Beacon Press, but it's by Rabbi Danya Rutenberg. We all cause harm sometimes. Maybe it's intentional, a result of calculated attempt to gain power or a place of anger or spite. Maybe it's out of carelessness or ignorance, a reaction to fear, or because we are overwhelmed and drop some balls. Maybe it's because we were acting out of our own broken places or trauma, or because in our attempt to protect some interest, we ran roughshod over others. Maybe it's because our smaller role in a larger system puts us in a position of perpetrating hurt or injustice. Maybe it's one of a myriad of other reasons or a combination of them. And we occupy all of these roles on the small scale in personal relationships, for example, and in larger ones as members of society, as stakeholders in institutions, as citizens and inhabitants of nations. So it's critical for all of us to think through the work of repentance, accountability, and transformation for a lot of different reasons. So let's enter into a time of meditation and prayer with these words written by Katie Kendarian Morris. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of generosity, as we draw near to that quiet, essential side of ourselves, may we be open enough to consider the sacred choices we make each minute, each hour, each day that add up to a lifetime. Let us become aware that here is the place to be forgiven and to forgive ourselves for any past thoughts and actions. Here is a place to begin again in love. As we are forgiven, let us open our hearts to forgive others, to pray for their well-being and joy, that they be lifted from worry and burden into peace and abundance. May we all be blessed with riches of the Spirit and moment upon moment of peace and serenity. Let us worship in silence together. Amen. I invite you to turn the back of your teal hymnal. You may remain seated. And this is a reading with a choral response, and you are the chorus. So I'll begin with the spoken word. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time our fears made us rigid and inaccessible. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause. And each other, we begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone. We forgive ourselves and each other. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit. For losing sight of our unity. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness. We will now have our offering and invite you to give generously to Seeds and Bridges. Every cent will go to help people who are in need because of the hurricane. I begin the sermon, a little bit of housekeeping. This is our potluck Sunday, and everybody's invited to stay after. But if you have small children or you're older and it's harder to move quickly, during our closing hymn, I invite you to come with me. I'll extinguish the chalice and you can head toward either door just to get a little bit of a head start. And that's part of how we work together to be in community together with equity for each other. So we'll continue with the sermon after that interruption. My friend Sig Pickus was a member of the church I served in Spartanburg, the Unitarian Universalist Church there, but he was also a member of the local synagogue, and he was known for giving really great presentations about Judaism all throughout the community, and I got to sit on a couple of them. And he would always begin with a question, and the question was, who is the most famous Jewish person in all the world? And people would throw out this name and that name and this name and that name. He'd say, no, no, no. And most of the time, nobody got it. Finally, he would say, the most famous Jewish person in all the world is Jesus. And that's because we often forget that Jesus was Jewish and that many of his teachings come from the Jewish tradition. In the spirit of the high holy days of the Jewish calendar, I am mindful of the words of Jesus contained in the Book of Common Prayer that I learned as a kid growing up in the Episcopal Church. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. There's a lot of wisdom contained in that simple statement, so I invite you to say it with me together. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Of course, the wisdom of this statement is sometimes lost on some of the followers of Jesus. I remember taking a bike trip in Upper East Tennessee through the town of Elizabethton, and I passed a home. It was a nice kind of country farmhouse, a white house with big porch, beautiful porch, and it proudly displayed an American flag and a Christian cross and a sign that said, "Trespassers will be shot." Which led me to ask myself the distinctly theological question, I wonder if we'll receive forgiveness before or after we're shot. But I decided against knocking on the door to ask that question, discretion being the better part of valor. So let's say those words together again. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. This may be the most Jewish thing Jesus ever said, and this is the most important time of year when we can repeat those words. The Jewish high holy days are set aside as a time to both seek forgiveness and to grant forgiveness. It's the Jewish New Year, so the idea is to begin the new year with a clean spiritual slate. The goal is to examine our lives to see if we've done anything in the last year that warrants forgiveness, to ask for forgiveness for our trespasses, but to also forgive those who trespass against us. Only in the Jewish tradition, we don't go to God first for forgiveness. We go directly to the person we've hurt. We go directly to the person who we have harmed, and we ask that person for forgiveness, and we seek to make amends. In this way, Judaism eliminates the middleman. In East Tennessee, there is sometimes a lot of emphasis on private property. Therefore, it's common as we're driving through the country to see those signs that say, "No trespassing." But in a spiritual sense, this is an ideal that none of us can live up to. This is an ideal that cannot be easily actualized. There's a scene in one of the episodes of The Simpsons where Bart goes up to his father and says, "Dad, what religion do we belong to?" And Homer says, "You know, the one with all the well-intentioned rules that don't work out in real life. And there's some truth to that in every religion. All religions lift up aspirational goals. Aspirational goals that we can't live up to all the time. Aspirational goals that we can't actualize in everyday life every single day. And so we regularly need to ask for and receive forgiveness. In many ways, the practices of Judaism align with the practices of Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous and other 12-step programs, where the goal is not only to seek forgiveness, but wherever possible to make amends where harm is done. There are some exceptions to when we should not. Essentially, there's time to say when we should not ask for forgiveness. We should never ask for forgiveness when we feel like it will do more harm than good. So ask yourself that question. Will it do more harm than good? When our actions have traumatized another person and that person needs space to heal, we should not ask for their forgiveness directly. When somebody has established an appropriate boundary, say a restraining order, or we know really clearly they don't want to see us, in those situations we should not ask for forgiveness. In other words, asking for forgiveness should never be a selfish thing we do to make ourselves feel better. It's about restoring social relationships. It's not all about us. It's not about narcissism. So the high holy days are set aside to speak about and to reflect on forgiveness. And a lot of attention is given to how we should ask for forgiveness, or how we should seek forgiveness, or how we should grant forgiveness. But this week I have been wondering less about how and more about why. Why should we seek forgiveness? Fair warning, I'm going to take a long time to answer that question. So be patient with me. Why do we need to seek forgiveness? Last Sunday we had a special collection for Seeds and Bridges. As I mentioned earlier, we raised $2,000 to get food, water, and other supplies to people in need who have been affected by Hurricane Helene. The devastation of that storm to Appalachia and beyond is without precedent in recent memory. We don't usually think of Appalachia as being in hurricane country, but it is now. You have to change our perspective. When I was a minister in Spartanburg, I used to, it's really close to go up to that town of Chimney Rock and hike in the mountains around there, or swim in Lake Lure. And now that whole community has been washed away into Lake Lure. Western North Carolina is isolated from other parts of the country due to collapsed interstates and bridges. This week I went up to Greenville with a Highlander filled with supplies to help our neighbors who are cut off by washed out bridges and roads. And this week, very spontaneously, the way things happen in the age of the internet, we worked together with the Knoxville Flood Mutual Aid Collective that needed space for drop-off and distribution. So our church was at the center of that work for 2 days, where we collected bottled water, diapers, hygiene products, baby food, gasoline, wet wipes, ready-to-eat meals, rubber gloves, cleaning supplies, protein bars, pet food, clean towels, washcloths, socks, underwear, and so much more. This operation of mutual aid that I observed felt very organic. It took a lot of organizing, but all that organization was about tapping into something deeper than the organizing, tapping into something deeper than the organizing. Everyone who volunteered just came out of nowhere. People coming and going, helping, freely volunteering, freely giving whatever they had to offer. The 2 days of our church functioning as a drop-off and distribution center felt like we were in the middle of a giant heartbeat. An influx of goods followed by an outflux of good. Influx, outflux, influx, outflux. Supplies coming into our congregation, going out to Marshall and Burnsville, Johnson City and Cosby, Hartford and Hot Springs, Irwin and Elizabethton. Supplies initially carried by cars and trucks, but picked up by people who were hikers and had backpacks to go wander up in those hills, and people who had ATVs and mule trains and any other way to get supplies where it was needed. The heartbeat of each volunteer aligning with the heartbeat of the work. There were times when a whole lot of stuff was collected, and then all of it would be gone. It seemed like in a matter of minutes you'd have more stuff than you could imagine to distribute, and then all of it would be gone. When I showed up on Wednesday, when it was in another location, I showed up in my Highlander, and there was nothing there. And the organizer said, wait 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, and she didn't even know what would come, but in 30 minutes, we had enough stuff to load up my Highlander, another SUV, and a truck. Out of nowhere. Influx, outflux, influx, outflux. Boom, boom, boom. Heartbeat, heartbeat. At some point, I noticed that one of the deliveries was going to Elizabethton, that community where I had biked by that house with the American flag and the Christian cross and the sign meant to discourage trespassing. Elizabethton was hit hard by the flood. And I found myself beginning to wonder who lived in that house and how old they were, and whether they had any friends and family, and whether they had anybody to help them in their time of need. And so I really felt it very deeply in my heart when I saw a supply truck heading toward Elizabethton, sending help in their direction. Hurricane Helene was a horrible storm with a 500-mile path of destruction. But it was also a reminder that we are all connected. We are all connected. We may think of ourselves as solitary individuals with a primary concern of protecting our own private property. But at moments like this, we are reminded of how much we need each other. The neighbor we're mad at might be the neighbor we need to pull us out of the floodwater. The other neighbor we're mad at might be the one who we need their well water, or we need food, who's going to be there to help us. We cannot afford to be permanently estranged from one another. The Stoic philosophers made an argument that you hear echoed in the Jewish and Christian tradition, that we are all members of one body. When we refuse to forgive, it's like we're an arm that amputates itself. And the arm that is amputated from the body always dies, always dies. We need to be connected to stay alive. And we are the ones, human beings, the philosophers remind us, we are the ones who get to choose whether we're connected or not. We can choose to stay connected, or we can choose to cut ourselves off in a self-destructive action. Now, in nature, we often see that things that are broken do not always get repaired. Things that are shattered can remain unshattered, or can remain shattered. And we see a lot of that kind of damage with hurricanes. Sometimes all the king's horsemen and all the king's men can never put things back together again. But we human beings have a choice. We can choose to come back. We can choose to come together. That which is divided can be reunited. Those who are estranged can be reconciled. when we become separated from the greater whole, we can choose to come home. We can choose to come home. And that is the answer, finally, to that question of why we need to seek forgiveness. In the Middle East, we have war, a horrible and deadly war. But this week, we had members of the Jewish community and the Muslim community working together to help those impacted by the hurricane. Thursday, at the beginning of the High Holy Days, Rosh Hashanah, the members of Temple Bethel, the Sunday school kids and adults, and Rabbi Raina came over with supplies they collected at the service to give to our church, to distribute to the world. And whenever we work with Seeds and Bridges, we are cooperating with the Muslim community of Knoxville to get hot meals to first responders and displaced communities. In Russia and the Ukraine, there is war, Christian versus Christian. And in our own country, we have political divisions, red state versus blue state, American versus American. But this week we have seen people of all faiths and no faiths working together to put love first, to put compassion first, to put kindness first. People of all faiths and political opinions on the side of love, like one great heartbeat. Boom, boom, boom. And the reason we forgive is because it is good for our hearts, and not only the heart that is inside our body, but the heart of the larger body. Every time we come together, pull together, and work together, that heart beats. And the hurricane recovery is going to be a long haul. The Knoxville Mutual Aid Collective has transmogrified into the Knoxville Flood Cleanup Collective, all about moving from just food and water to doing the work of cleanup. Because our world needs that bigger heart, that heart that is bigger than any one of us, that heart that beats every time we come together and rise to face an enormous challenge, that big heart that beats with a love that is bigger than our differences, bigger than all of our polarization and division, the heart that beats and reminds us that we are one. On Friday night, many of us marched in the Pride Parade downtown, and we marched right behind an inflatable unicorn. I told somebody next to me, I said, I don't even know where you would go to buy an inflatable unicorn, but there it was. And there was another car, a few cars ahead of us, that had its own bubble maker, so bubbles were coming back, which is to say it was a party. It was a party. We went from flood relief to this big parade and a party. And we didn't plan it, but somehow we fell into, it's not only the parade, which is enormous, which is just a great thing. And if you were here in the days when it was small, it's so exciting to see how big it's become. But the people who come to watch are big too. And we found ourselves spontaneously coming up with a kind of a call and response where we would say, all you need is love. And the people on the side would say, bum, ba, 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 ba. So let's try that. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. And as we were marching together in that Pride Parade, we were holding up those church signs, the signs that many of us have in our yard that says we are all connected. We're all stronger together, and that's what I've learned this week at our church. The High Holy Days end with Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, October 12th, the day of at one-ment, about being at one, the day when we remember that we are one. On other days, we may feel like isolated individuals whose primary task is to protect our own private property. But on the Day of Atonement, we can say together the words I first learned as a child in the Episcopal Church, words that I invite you to say with me. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So may it be.
Hinematov, number 392 in their hymnals. Hinematov umanayim, sheretahim gam yachad. Again. Hinematov umanayim, sheretahim gam yachad. Hinematov, sheretahim gam yachad. Hinematov, sheretahim gam yachad. Now in English, how good it is and how pleasant for people to dwell together. How good it is and how pleasant for people to dwell together. Good and pleasant, people in peace together. Good and pleasant, people in peace together. Now listen. Now we're going to try it in major. Can we hear that C major? 2, ready, and go. Hinematov umanayim, sheretahim gam yachad. Hinematov umanayim, sheretahim gam yachad. Hinematov, sheretahim gam yachad. Hinematov, sheretahim gam yachad.
Big Church, the world awaits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free. As our last act of worship, I invite you to turn and greet your neighbor.
Great. Really? Good. And that wasn't even hot. Red shells.
driving the truck back and forth. Let me what mission driving the truck back and forth to East Tennessee. Oh. No. Okay.
There's a pile for the ocean salon.
Yes.
Right here.
At all. So,
It's a little
truck broke.
Hawaiian.